All right, welcome to another episode of the Reactor. My name is Chris. I'm with Click Team. Today we're going to talk about Chartboost. As you can see, I have the Chartboost interface up. And then we're going to mess around with Firefly. We had a Firefly update today. It's going to be pretty exciting. And so let's get started. So the very first thing you need to do when setting up a Chartboost ad revenue generator in your app is you got to set a new app. So let's do that. We're going to click on app, and then you get to select what platform. Today we're going to focus on Google, so the Google Play Android platform. And then you got to give the app a nickname. So our test app. And then we're going to say com.clickteam.test. And that is the same app bundle ID that you would use inside your app. So File, New, select Android, and you would put that here. So it would be com.clickteam.test. So the package name matches in your application the app bundle ID. Later you can import the app and or place the market URL, and it will auto-populate as much information as you can get. The next thing you need to do is select portrait or landscape. Well, doesn't really matter in this test, but you have to pick one. And then you have to determine if you're going to be in test mode. So if your app isn't published, then you're going to want to enable test mode, and you have to select a minimum of 160 minutes, but I'll just put 120. Then there's the advanced settings. I haven't messed with any of them. So don't ask me what they do. But at this point I hit save. And as it says, it reminds you that if you don't have a valid URL, you will have to run in test mode. So once we have that done, we then have to create a campaign for it. So network publishing is what we're talking about. And so we'll call it my test campaign. And we'll select the ad type, and we're going to go with static. Now I can never pronounce this word. Interstitial? Stitital? I don't know. And then the platform again. And then you have to select your app, which my app isn't up here yet, so we'll just put this one for now. I don't know why my app's not there yet. Let's see. We should probably make sure that it's saved the app. So back to apps. It doesn't look like I saved the app, so that's probably why it didn't show up. So Google my test app com.clickteam.test landscape disabled. Then you got to enable it again. 60, well, 120. Let's make sure we save it this time. Okay, good. So change is saved. Changes may take up to 1 hour to take effect. And then this is a warning that when you launch your app, you got to make sure you have that valid market URL, which is the URL you would use to get to your app on Google Play. So we'll go ahead and close those warnings. And then we go back down to campaigns. And I don't know if the campaign was saved. Nope. So add a campaign, network publishing, my test, there you go, test campaign, static. These are, of course, the different ad types. Then my test app, so it's already selected, Google Play, and good, confirm. And that should be it. You leave the rest the way it is. As I figure out what they're for, I can always do another stream and we can talk about it. But I wanted to give you just the basics. And then you'll see that in your list of apps, you now have your test app. Notice that there's no check mark for SDK. That's because you haven't deployed your app and tested it. Once it tests and connects, then you'll get a check mark there saying that it confirms receipt of information from your app. So now we need to build the app. So from research, because I did it for Get Wrecked over the week, the best way to do this is to preload your ads And the best way it seems to do that is through global events. So go to your application and go to your global event editor and make sure you import, which of course we need those objects. So back to the frame, and we need our Chartboost object. There you go. Then we can go to the global events. So the reason why we want to use global events is by preloading on a global level, no matter where you're in the app, the Chartboost object will process and use that runtime in a frame, let's say the game frame, if you will, to have that ad ready so that when you get to a point where you want to display the ad, it instantly loads and you don't have to wait for it. So at a higher level, the global event level editor level, we're able to stream that data in from Chartboost. So you got to import, if you've never used the global event editor, you got to import the objects from whatever frame, in this case frame 1, you're going to use. And if I'm not mistaken, in this example we had a global value, and we'll call it is Chartboost interstitial cached. Wonderful. So now with the global value, we can begin some coding. So the very first thing we need to do is do some settings in the object. So on this frame, start a frame. So the minute the app boots up, the global event editor will assume this start a frame event. And what we want to do is we want to show, and we gotta show no interstitial ads. I think that's not it. Bear with me. So the command I'm looking for, the action I'm looking for, is show no interstitial ads until second session to 0. So I'm trying to figure out which one it is. No, no, no. Okay. Another stellar demonstration by me. I will probably get chewed apart in the comments for the video when I post it. So, don't know what I'm doing wrong here. No, that's not it. Interesting. Hey, we got some comments. So we got a question from Danny, who's asking, is this the first thing you'll see on Chartboost once you register? I believe so. And yeah, I did jump into it. Sorry. And no, your English is fine. Yeah, I did jump into it. I got to work on that. I got to slow down. But yeah, that is pretty much what you'll see. That's the dashboard for Chartboost. So again, when you log into Chartboost and you have successfully created your account, this is what you'll see. This is the dashboard. And then down here, you can add an app and add a campaign. And again, adding an app brings out the form that I showed you, as well as the campaign form. It's all pretty good. Hope that answers your question, sir. Okay, so I don't know why I can't find these events, these actions. Kind of silly. Nope. So we're going to blow through every single one of them. Nope. No. I attached them to her dongle in her purse. Okay. Very interesting. So what we're going to do is we're going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to go here. I want to copy the events out of here. And then I'm going to drop them into here. And there we go. So you'll see that we're showing no add until second session to 0. Then we display interstitial and request interstitial. So then the next command is where we're actually going to preload. And the way he did it in the example that was given to me is we'll first create a comment. Preload adds. If you guys can just give me 1 second, I'll be right back. Okay, so yes, indeed, we want to preload the ads, and let's see, we have a comment here. Indeed, it does come with dev. So in order to use the Chartboost object, you will need developer. I do believe, though, you can still access it by using the click store item that was written by Fernando in standard. And I believe that is, let's see, Android. What is the name of that object? So we'll just go to extensions, plugins, extensions. I believe, where are you, my friend? Yes, I believe you can use the Iron Source and Supersonic Ads extension in standard. You don't need developer, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I do believe it runs in standard. I'll probably want to confirm that, but that's an option of an object that will allow you to do ads in standard. But all the objects provided by ClickTeam for ads are done through developer. So hopefully that answers that question. So now we got to preload our ads. And the way they did it in the example is they call every 15 seconds, it looks like. So let's go here, every 15 seconds. That looks correct. And then that value that we created, that global value, we compare it to it, and we ask if it's equal to 0. So every 15 seconds, and if the Chartboost interstitial is cached to 0, then we're going to go here, cache interstitial, we give it a name, and in this case we'll just go default. And then that will begin the process of preloading the ad in your application. It'll actually create a folder on the device where it'll store all the assets, which is kind of cool. So the next thing we need to do is we need to switch that global value off if an ad is preloaded. And that's not too hard. What we do is we say on interstitial cached, and then we call the same one. We say default. So there we go. Then we just set this global value to 1. So what that does is, as the ads are being loaded, as soon as one is fully loaded, it turns that off and stores the ad in memory. So then you're good. So you could call the ad in any frame because it'll be loaded to the object at a global level. So let's go to the frame and write our code to display the ad. So showing the ad is actually not that hard. So the very first thing we're going to do is say, we're going to test, and we're going to say, compare to that global value. Is it time to display an ad? Now, of course, you may want additional conditions depending on how you structure your app, but this would be the bare minimum to trigger the ad. So if it equals 0, then we're going to show that ad. And then again, you call the name. Okay. And there you go. And then what I did in my example is I put this in a group. And I said show ad. And then we would close the group. And the reason we do that is that way it doesn't continue to trigger over and over again. Right? Now, there's a couple things we need in addition to that. We want to have a couple of these triggered. So the one thing we want to do is start with failed. So if default fails, we then set the play durations, or then you would jump to frame, or in this case you could turn off the cache so that it would relaunch. Now what I did on my lines is, in addition to these, I would then move to the app to the next phase. So in getRect, you can see here that I set the Chartboost back to 0, and I have play duration, and I'll get to that in a second. But then I jump to the title frame. Okay, and this is how you test to make sure that the person is returned to the app from accepting the ad. So if you tap the ad to see what the ad's offering, it usually launches the Google Play Store, and if you came back, these events would trigger, primarily on activity resumed. And then on closed, failed, and dismissed is if closed is if they hit X on the app, the ad to close it out, and failed and dismissed is if it's not working. So we need to code that into ours. So failed, we want to switch that to is dismissed. Defaults. And we want to get rid of that. And then we want closed, defaults, and then finally on activity resumed. And then I set that value again to 0. Or I would jump to the frame or restart the game or whatever I want to do. Now one thing I did in getRect that you'll see once you can download it that we haven't done here yet is this would trigger every time this group is activated. So you would show an ad every time. And did a little research, and I found that you have a higher success rate with the ads if you're not hitting the person with the ads all the time. If it's not a predictable ad. So what we could do is we could say ad rate, right? And we could say here, if ad rate equals 0, then trigger it. But now what we would do is, because we've triggered the ad, we could then set this value to 1 plus random and whatever you want, so 3. So in this case, I'm going to get a value between 1 and 3 because random returns a value between 0 and 2. And then you would, on your next frame, we'll say game frame, And then we would say ads. And you could just embed the ads in the same frame as the game. You don't have to do it the way I'm doing it. I'm just trying to illustrate by modularizing what we're working on. So let's grab a button to trigger moving to the next frame. Next frame. Then we go here. If button is clicked, then we would subtract from is ad rate, and we would set that to 1, subtract it 1, and then jump to frame ads. And then in ads, we would add the, and then we would jump to game frame. And then here we would add the additional line of greater than 1. So is the ad rate greater than 1, greater than 0 rather, then we would jump to the game frame. So what we've done now is starting here, or actually starting at rather the global event level, we do our initial prep. We then start the process at the global event level of preloading an ad. If an ad is preloaded, we set a global value to 1, indicating that the ad is now ready for display. And then in our code, we have our game frame, if you will. Once I've concluded the game, I jump to my ads frame. And my ads frame will, under the show ad, do one of two things. If an ad is preloaded and it's time to show an ad, it will deactivate it'll display the ad. It'll then deactivate the group after setting, and I set the wrong value, ad rate to a random number. So set ad rate to, after displaying ads, set the ad rate to 1 to 3, and then deactivate the group. And then it's going to spend the rest of the time in the frame, if that happens, listening for the user to complete the ad in one way or another. Once that happens, it's going to set the is ad loaded to 0 so that the global event editor will then again load a new ad, and it'll jump back to our game. Now we have a value between 1 and 3. Let's say if it's 3, when I click the button, it's going to subtract it to 2, so that on ad rate, it's just going to jump to the game frame. It's going to ignore this, and it's just going to jump back to the game frame because it's not time to display an ad. And randomizing it allows the player to maybe show a little, from what I understand, show a little more interest in the game, or rather the ads, because they're not being bombarded with the ads consistently. And that can really work, especially if you build a game like we did with Get Wrecked, a couple months ago, where the game plays real quick. So in Get Wrecked, when I tested it on my own kid, she played for an hour trying to beat my high score, and during that time, she probably paid it about 200 times because the game plays real quick, and she didn't see an ad every time. So by keeping them hooked on the gameplay and then occasionally showing them ad, that may apparently returns a better ad rate. So that's the reason why you can do it. But if you want to, you could show an ad all the time. You could also build this to show an ad as a reward to unlock or continue or what have you. So that's the basics, and I will flesh this out and post it for our Reactor users. Let's see if there's any questions about it. Okay, let's see. Right, exactly. So as Danny's asking, watch a video to gain in-game virtual currency. Yes, you could do that. And so the process would be, in that case, we would want to cache the reward video, right? So we would say default. Oh, that's not the right area, sorry. Again, at the global event editor level. So we would remove that. We'll deactivate it. And then instead of caching a interstitial ad, if I'm saying it right, who knows, we then cache instead the default video. And then this line, which we will deactivate, turns into, is the reward video, oh, default video cached, and if so, oh, then set add is loaded to 1. So that's now preloading a video, not a whole lot different. So in the add section, we would default this out, and then we would insert instead, compare it to global value, does it equal 1? And the same thing here, add rate, is it, good Lord, come on, Fusion. Add rate is at 0. And then instead of showing the ad, we would show the reward video by calling the location string. And then you could do the same things here. These would all be deactivated. And instead we would have is video failed? Is video dismissed? And is video closed? To clear it out. And then here, you have clicked, which says, did the user click the video through, as an option. And I don't know what this one does. I'll have to research that. Maybe that's testing to see if the video is going to play in a second. And then this particular event you'd probably copy and still use. And that sort should do the exact same thing for videos. I hope that answers the question. So Wendy Beard, are you still in an advert or are you okay? Can you see what we're doing? All right, and Perry's talking about a video that he's giving away for reward videos. Love to see it. So there you go. That's basically the basics to what we're talking about. And, well, if he's going to do that, I'm going to download it too. Unashamed. Thanks, Perry. All right. All right, so does anyone have any questions concerning this? We'll flesh it out, and this one I'll probably write a document with it so that you guys can walk through it. It did take me a little while to figure it out. Like most things in Fusion, it's you think it's going to be more complex than it is, and then it turns out it's not that complex. So sometimes you got to not think in such broad terms and just try to look for the simplest solution in Fusion is usually the best. So yeah, that's it. So yeah, and now I get ads in GetRec. Let's see if I can generate one. Let me turn on the Android tablet. We'll really use the camera here to its max effect. Yes, unfortunately, you know, Jeff, I'm having made a lot of games using Fusion over 16 years now. I'm not a fan of ads. I'm not a fan of freeware or freemium, but it seems to be where the market's heading, especially in mobile. And as an indie developer, mobile is a place I can really compete with, as well as you guys if you're doing mobile apps. Steam, on the other hand, is a tricky beast. Sometimes you can hit gold, and other times it's, you know, kind of a how would they put it? A hive of villainy, if you will. So it's difficult to make money. I think Wendy could actually comment on that in the chat because he knows exactly. Yeah, Steam is a cruel mistress. Exactly. So, but the marketplace is going that premium, people aren't buying premium games as much as you would like. I would much rather make a game that has a ton of cool features, put it on mobile, sell it for $3, and sell a ton of it. $2, even $1. Because, you know, as a developer, it's part business, it's part art. And you want to make something that's fun, you want to make something that people appreciate. And I just sometimes feel like freemium is kind of a stain on that, if you will. But it seems to be the only way to get millions and millions of people to download your games. If you go online and go search top iOS earners, they're all free games, and some of them are making a ton of money a day. That, like, ridiculous amount of money. Let's see, top iOS freemium earners. Let's see if that pulls up. Let's see. Maybe this will give us. So, yeah, look at this. Candy Crush Saga, Clash of Clans, Clash Royale. Those are all top dollar free games, and they're making a ton of money. So doesn't hurt to do freemium, apparently. It may hurt our creative processes and our hearts, but you know, if you want to do this for a business, then that may be the way to go. You got to follow the trends. So anyways, let's take a look at Get Wrecked. I'll hold it up so as you can see, we can maybe see an ad. I'll lose intentionally, which means that the game's hard and I'm just lose anyways. Oh, that doesn't help. So we added some things. Let's see. Make sure you guys can see it. Looks like my feed just froze. Okay, there you go. So these are now difficulties. So we'll go with the hardest difficulty. Now, if we're lucky and the ad's preloaded, then we should get an ad here. And there's our ad. And this is one of those interactive ads, which are kind of cool. And when you're done, you hit the X. And it brings you back to the title screen. So it's not that hard. Now, if I play again, I shouldn't get an ad again, because we wanted to do, again, that process where we're not showing an ad every time. And it looks like I must have pulled a 1, so you get an ad. We're getting wrecked a lot today. I've noticed this about the game. You can actually get a ton of points doing nothing. So I got to figure out how to fix that. There we go. And there you go. So it did not go to the ads. And then I could do 2 or 3 more times. So, anyways. Don't know what that is. Get out of here. Okay, so let's take a look at Firefly, shall we? Any other questions on the ads? Let's take a look. Well, Wendy, you should make Android games. In fact, I think if you converted the mouse on your Dreamstones and made it finger swipe, it'd be incredible on mobile. I think it would do very well on mobile. You should do it. And it shouldn't be a whole lot of work unless you're using shaders. Are you using shaders or funky Windows-only objects? Yeah, Perry, I prefer iOS. I like gaming on iOS better than Android. Apple is getting really wonky with their updates and their requirements. I cannot believe that they, with iOS 11, killed all 32-bit apps. I myself had to go and update a few of mine to keep them on the market. It makes no sense. And then Apple gets caught with their pants down, apparently slowing down through updates, older devices. Why would you do that? And it has something to do with their explanation has something to do with the battery. Yes, it does have something to do with the battery, Apple. You want to sell more batteries in brand new phones. Kind of shady. So yeah, I mean, I'm starting to feel like Android, especially with this $99 tablet, is light years ahead of the first Android tablet I developed on, and the OS itself is getting a lot better. So yeah, I mean, Android is definitely making strides. So we'll see how that goes. You would think that Apple would have learned this lesson when they competed against Windows machines, you know, in the 80s. But, you know, makes you wonder how much Steve Jobs was really steering the ship, and with him not there is it an issue. Poop on my Wendy, I poop back. Okay, I don't. Zomboids makes that comment, and I really don't know what to say to it except poop on, brother, poop on. All right, so let's take a look at Firefly. All right, so let's go ahead and save this bad boy. Reactor, new folder, Chartboost, not Chatboost, Chartboost, Android. And we'll go ahead and call it Chartboost, Android. We'll finish that up later. Goodbye. So, file new. Now, for those of you that have not used Firefly is something that I had the pleasure of leading development on. I didn't actually do the programming. I just kind of managed it for over 5 years with 3 different people. Click Team brought on last Triadan, incredibly talented individual out of the UK who helped finish up the objects after Chris Ross had worked on them for quite some time. And the whole goal, the whole development goal with Firefly was to not repeat the mistake that we had with Jar Magic, which is introduce scripted programming. Now, we get a lot of folks who say, hey, why don't you add scripted programming to Fusion? And in fact, you can do it if you like Lua and a couple other objects like that. But we believe the bread and butter of Fusion should be the event editor. That's our pitch. That's our sales pitch. You don't have to master script. You don't have to be, I want to say, slowed down by script, because I don't think anyone would argue the event editor is faster. But making 3D with the event editor was a huge challenge. So we spent a lot of time trying to work around that, the vernacular, the how to event, and I think we've got a really good launch with Firefly on that. There's plenty of things we'd like to improve, and he is working really hard with me to do that. And in fact, if we take a look at the first major update in a while that we posted today, which I believe I kept that, is it here? Here we go. He added per pixel lighting and normal mapping, which we have demonstrated in this video. And here's an actual, probably more accurate description of the benefit. So an original mesh that does not deploy this technology is generating 4 million triangles to do this particular image. But by overlapping a second layer with what we call a, let's see, I want to make sure I say it exactly correct, a second texture, a map, if you will, that will determine how the light bounces off it, we're able to give a much more detailed look to it by trickery, if you will, and you end up with the same number of triangles, 500 triangles, with a lower quality mesh, but the effect makes it look like it's as detailed as the 4 million triangles. And why would you want to do that? The less polygons you're rendering, the faster it will go, the better you're using your resources. So that's a huge deal. And let's see. Oh, mobile. Yeah, we're still working on the mobile. And then, so that's a huge thing. And we can actually see a little bit of the effect here on this handy-dandy video that he provided. We'll go full screen with it. So this is the old lighting, and you can see how it kind of pops in and out. How it was jumping, if you will. There wasn't as much gradient. See how it just pops in and out? It's almost in a couple frames the light on the meter. And then here is it with per pixel lighting. And you can see how it's starting to fade in. There's a lot more detail. Which just makes for cleaner looking games. So pretty cool. He's also brought to forth World Editor 2.0. This one was written from scratch based on a lot of feedback that we were given by users concerning wanting a world editor. There's plenty still left to do on it. but we wanted to share with you in this update the progress and get more feedback. So the old editor that we launched with has been sent to the editor death pile, and this new editor is available. You can get to it in Fusion through Tools, okay? Or if we insert a engine object, which you have to for Firefly projects, you can access that editor through the 3D Extras property in the final tab of the Firefly engine's properties. So that's pretty cool. And here's a picture of it. We'll do a little work with it in a second, not a lot. And it's pretty clean. It's going to make some cool things. One of the things that is in, but is not quite 100% ready to launch, is the Vertex Manipulator mode, which, as it says, you can actually grab the different verticals of a model and move them around. And this is an image that a GIF that demonstrates it. The editor will provide that functionality in an update, but right now you could do it manually through the event editor, and there should be an example once you download it in your examples Firefly directory. A couple other things. We had a user wanting to know if we could transpose billboards. That's done. And then I mentioned that demo being added. And the biggest news is if you haven't taken the Firefly plunge yet, as part of our Steam winter sale, we have it on sale on Steam, 66% off. So for us US people, that's about $27.19. But you can also get it on Fanatical as part of our new partnership. It's also the same sale, $27.19. And if you just want to keep it old school or have a standalone, because both of those versions that I showed you are Steam, you can get the standalone on Click Store for the exact same price. And those prices should be good to the 4th of January. But don't wait, we could run out of downloads. Just kidding. But yeah, and the beta is pushed to all of them. If you're a Steam user, then to access the beta, you would need to go to your software, right-click, click Team Fusion, go to Properties, and under Updates, under Betas, you would select the beta-beta test. Now, if you haven't unlocked that, you can get the code for it by going to the wrong page, Community Hub, Discussions, and then here is the beta code. So you copy that into that box that we saw under the apps properties for beta, and it will unlock the beta. So after we test it for a while, we may push a couple more betas, and then we'll make it 100% live. But you can have access to it now. So, editor. So far, you can add all these different, like a cube, right? And then each plane allows me to rotate, look. The mouse wheel allows me to zoom in, and then you can grab an axis, which this part's a little finicky. He's got to work on it, and he knows it. I'll try this axis. So none of those axes seem to be working. Let's see if we can scale it. No go. Can we remove it? So try. It looks like the object's no longer selected. How do I reselect it? Or is this a bug that will patch up soon? So, Zomboid, can you draw out your level using lines and by setting height and selecting a face and applying and modifying a texture? Interesting. Perry. But wait, there's more. That's right, we'll ship it free. We're having a sale on it. It's buy 2, get 1 free for the price of 3. Double click the object, okay? There we go. So now I've restored, but the selection still seems to avoid. So we'll just get rid of that one, and I'll grab one of these objects from a recent new library. So we get the chair. I know the chair works. So I can click that. See, it turns yellow, and I can move it up and down with the mouse. Zoom in. Then we grab this, and I believe if I can click green. You know, it's also my mouse. My mouse has been wonky lately. There you go. No. Oh, that's interesting. So we'll click out, let a sphere. Well, I'm making it a really bad demonstration. Sorry. Let's see if scale works. Let's see if we can stretch the heck out of it. All right, before I do any more damage showing the editor, we'll go ahead and close that. I must not be using it very well. And let's actually put these objects into the engine. So I've added the Firefly engine object, and you have all these different functions. You can select what mode you want to run it in. You can set the different ambient and background color, render speed, travel distance to see how far collisions occur, fog color, and so forth. One thing I didn't ask him today is if the shadows were working. The code's there. We set it to default off on the last build because it was kind of buggy. Can you comment, try if shadows are still a little buggy, or is it safe for them to try? So he'll give us an answer to that question. While we do that, there's a couple more objects we need before we can grab display something. We're going to need a camera, because if I were to run it now, you see nothing but blue. Hey, you know, that's almost cornflower blue, so that's awesome. So let's go ahead and grab the camera. And for ease of use, we've have this option to place the camera away from the center of the scene automatically for you, or you can start at X, Y, and Z of 0, 0, 0 by selecting no. Because we want to go with defaults, we'll just select yes. And then you can see all the different properties for the camera. And this is one thing that people who start with Firefly get a little apprehensive about. Each object has a ton of actions and conditions, a lot. And it can be overwhelming at first, but a lot of them repeat, so don't get too upset. You just got to experiment and mess around with it. So we have our camera object. Last thing we need is some light. Got to illuminate, you know, on the 47th minute of this demonstration. Let there be light. So there we go. There's our light objects. Now if I run it, we still get nothing but blue, because now we don't have anything to look at yet in the world. So let's start with let's grab a primitive, and let's go ahead and set that primitive to a plane, and we'll leave it to default settings, and let's open it up and see what we get. So there's our surface. That's cool. Now, it's all white and it doesn't really look that good, so why don't we give it a material? So I'm going to grab the material object, and we'll say new material, and we'll say floor, and then we're going to make a wonky-do texture. Let's increase the size of this bad boy, 512 by 512. Apply. We'll start with a base of a dark brownish color. Then using the old spray paint tool, a little, oh, we need much bigger size, so we'll say 50. Yeah, then we'll just go crazy with some weird looking circles. It's just stupid, you know. It's like Bob Ross. It's your floor. Paint a happy little floor. Right, okay. So there we go. Now we got a material. And then we go into here, and you can say, real easy, has a material been loaded? So has loaded a material in an index. So we'll say 0, and then we'll negate that. So we're saying, is there a material? There's no material loaded. And if there isn't, then we're going to load a material. We're going to get a material. See what I mean by tons of options? Get a material, and we're going to get material 1. It might actually be 2, but we'll find out in a minute. And then 0 for the index. So we run it, and there's our floor. So now we have a floor. And like I said, it's a horrible looking floor. But you know, I could shrink it by going here, and you see the different properties. I could say tile size is 1, and tile count is 100. Let's see what effect that gives us. Nothing. I did it wrong. What did I do wrong? Let's go 10, 10. So that zoomed it in. So 0.10, 0.10. There you go. So now it's nice and small. And then we would then create 10, 10 for repeat. There you go. And then I'd have to zoom it back in. So let's go back to 10, 10. And there you go. It's kind of repeating. So maybe we increase this to 100. It's just experimenting, you know. There you go. So now it's even a smaller looking floor. Well, the tiles are smaller, but it's spread out over more of a distance. he's losing his mind, Trident, because I'm such a, after working on this for 5 years, I still don't understand basic 3D concepts. It's tough learning it. So let's grab a mesh. Let's finally grab a static mesh. By the way, when you download Firefly to your copy of Fusion, we do have a category for it, so you can quickly see which objects to work with. In this case, we want a static mesh, so I'm going to grab it. And in the case of meshes, there's all sorts of different types of meshes that you can use. In this particular one, I downloaded a library that was recently posted to ClickStore, so let's go ahead and take a look at that. Firefly 3D category, scrolling down, here it is. The low poly medieval set, only 99 cents, available on ClickStore, order now. And you know, it has all these different objects that you can mess with. So I thought that'd be cool to use those because they were made for Fusion. When he originally posted them, he made the objects really large scale. So Try there scaled them down for us for this demo. So that's kind of cool. Now these are .obg's objects. And in the case of those type of objects, sometimes they come included with a .mtl file or a material file, which ties you into the texture, a texture pane, in this case texture, that you see here, which helps skin and color everything. So by selecting the object, team, finding the folder. Am I the only one who has too many folders on their computer? Hello, my name's Chris. I have a problem with folders. So now we run it, and now we have a chair sitting right there. Easy. Now how do we look around the chair? Great question. Let's see if I can remember how to do this. We could start a frame, camera, target, set target, I think it's target, to node property of our static mesh to position X, and I'm going to go ahead and copy that, change it to Y, and then change it to Z. And then we'll say keyboard, repeat while key is pressed, and we'll just say arrow. And if we do that, we're going to take the camera position, and I'll start with X. I don't even know if that's the right one to use, but I'll pull the node for X, and we'll minus it 0.10. Let's see what that gives us. So there we go. Now I'm looking at the chair. Now it's not going completely around because I'm going in only one direction. And so we'd have to write a different algorithm to rotate around it. But that gives you the idea how to move. That's just moving along one plane. You know, we could say node properties, position, set Y. We could add Y to it just to see what it does. Node properties. Don't confuse position with node properties. So in a 2D environment, you use X and Y position of an object. But in Firefly, it's node properties. And they're same position, get Y plus 1. Let's see what that does for us. So now we're doing some wonky zoom out business. Tonight on Who's in the Chair? So that's one way to do it. We could slow that down by Decimals are your friend in Firefly. Do not be afraid of using decimals or floats. So there we go. That's a slower way of doing it. And then, of course, if I wanted to reverse it, simple to just go in here and change. By reversing the positives and negatives to positives. So now we're able to scroll around. So super simple example, right? But a lot of people are kind of afraid of 3D, myself included. It's you know, but just like we do with Chartboost, sometimes we overthink things. Fusion works really hard to make it as simple as possible. That's the reason why we all love it, because you can run circles around script programming because it's all been standardized and drag and drop. So super easy to do. We can move the light around too if we wanted to. Position, node properties, set Z, grab the Z for it, and we'll add 1. And then the reverse is negative. And let's see what that does. So now you can see the light moving. Very easy. It's like, this is like one of those cheesy intros, ready? To like some sort of crime investigation show. Was Janice innocent of murder? You know, that kind of thing. So there you go. Very easy stuff. We've worked very hard to make it easy. It is 3D. There's a ton of options, but don't be overwhelmed. Don't be overwhelmed. It just takes a little time, just like it did when you started Fusion the first time. A lot of folks are not aware of it, but it's worth noting that we did spend a good amount of time dedicating a large chunk of the library to just the Firefly objects. So if the answer to your woes are not in the help, okay, and you can't discover the solution by opening the tutorial, or if you can't find the answer when going into the examples folder, right, then you also have available to you the library. And don't forget to go to clickteam.com, community.clickteam forums, and then under product, once you own a copy of it on sale, go to Firefly and let us know what you're doing. Let us know how it works. Let us know what your questions are. We want to answer them. Do not be afraid to ask. It is, you know, something new. But if we can continue to promote Firefly and get people invested in it, we can continue to expand it and, you know, truly make 3D as easy and as universal as the 2D portion of Fusion has become. Any questions so far? Let's see if there's any questions. I don't see any questions there. Chair stream, yes, yes. Who doesn't like a good chair? So, Team 89er on YouTube is asking, how do you open the 3D editor? So the 3D editor is really easy to get to. Again, all you got to do, we've given you 2 routes to it. By clicking on your Firefly engine object and going to the final tab, you can launch 3D editor. Okay, or a lot of folks are not aware, but you got the tools option. When you install the DLC, whether it be through Steam, which is what I'm using, or the standalone version, it'll pop up in your tools folder as well, and you can click it right there. And voila, editor. In fact, I put a bunch of stuff in the tools that I use. I've got the OBB maker. I got my Steam Workshop tool, which packs in. I have Magic Voxel. I put there in it myself. You can make, you know, I can make this knight right here. And let's just for fun export it as an object. We'll put it in that same folder. New folder, low poly, chair knight, and I believe it saves our, yep, so there's the ping, and there's the material folder. So now I'm going to go into here, and I'm going to change our chair to the chair knight, and there's our knight. Easy as pie. This little voxel editor is really cool. One of our users, Paddlejamin, French user, longtime user, does incredible stuff in Fusion. He turned me on to it. So it's a great tool. It's called Magica Voxel, and you can make all sorts of really cool stuff with it. It's really easy to edit. You know, you just do whatever. You can ruin her day, attach stuff, you know, rotate around. Pretty cool. But I put it in my tools folder, and now I have access to it. So let's see if there's any other questions. So no, the voxel editor is not a Firefly tool or written in Fusion Firefly, but it's a tool that's out there in the internet wilds that allows you to make you know, models using voxels. So pretty cool to use. And it's a great way to, you know, make something real quick and put it in Firefly and see what's going on. In fact, if you go to his YouTube channel, let's see if we can dig it up. Go to the tubes. Hey, look, ClickTeam's live. We go to, I believe I marked them in our Firefly area. So we go to channels. No, I'm sorry, playlists. Come on, Chris, you can do this. Playlists, Firefly. We don't want to play them all. Yeah, this is him right here. In fact, he just posted one today, I think. Let's see if we can find it. It was pretty cool. And I believe it's a 2D to 3D conversion. So we'll watch this one real quick. This is his FPS maker, first-person shooter maker. So in 2D, he's using Fusion to make a 2D editor that you drop these tiles on, each tile representing a box, if you will. And then he's adding some ceiling. And then he renders it, and now you're in the world that he created. So that's kind of cool. The one he published today, let's see if we can see it. Yeah, Maze on Fire. This is pretty cool. There it is. It's all events, just like you're used to doing. Anybody can do it. Got your high-quality sword. Like, oh, what was that game on PlayStation? Kingsfield. It's very Kingsfield feeling with the low poly and the... Oh! Run, dude, run. Run into that steam and burn up. Is he going to fight him? Oh, he's avoiding him. Why fight when you can run? Bunch of critters over there. See, look at this. I mean, this is amazing, and it's probably less than 200 event lines. Now, is it low poly? Absolutely. Does it look like it's on a 32-bit gaming system? Absolutely. But that's just because it's a demonstration and he's not put a lot of effort into it. Not that he hadn't put a lot of effort to it, but not a lot of 3D assets. Firefly is easily capable of doing high poly stuff. And I suspect as more and more users pick up on it and experiment, we should see more and more high poly stuff. But I like looking at his stuff just because he's able to put it together so quickly. And who doesn't love these old school games? I made one. You can find it on ClickStore. So there's that. Again, his YouTube channel is right here, and you can get to it through the ClickTeam site. We subscribe to him. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for today. We'll post the video up soon and the demonstration file. Is there any other questions, last-minute questions? Not seeing any. As usual, I'll stay on for a little bit to answer any questions. It's going to be a short stream today because holidays and all. If you are a holiday celebrator, I hope you have a good holiday. And we'll see you next Friday. And thanks for watching, guys.